The discussion about private schools, I think, is going to become even more prominent in the next couple of years because we are going to be facing yet more austerity. Trust me, this autumn budget that is coming, I've said it before, we are going to be getting ourselves absolutely raked over the coals by, as I've said before, the term austerity on steroids. Get ready because that's what Sunak is going to deliver in this autumn budget. And trust me, he's going to upset lots of apple carts within the Tory party. Many of them who are chomping at the bit, wanting Sunak to actually invest and to keep, again, Boris's promise of levelling up. But as we've said before, you can't level up the country and not invest in it. But of course, that was never the plan. As we've said before, the two big-eyed competing ideas in the Tory party, and the one that won was with Brexit and global Britain. Forget investing in the home nation. It's all about getting those sweet trade deals around the world and then sending British money around the world to invest in, well, foreign countries with the hope that somehow it'll trickle back into the UK. That's what's going to happen. That is, we can pretty much see that is going to be the winning idea. And those MPs, those northern MPs that got elected, saying to their northern constituencies that we are going to level up the north, level up the country, they're about to be, shall we say, become very, very rebellious. But one of the areas where I think we can really improve and really take it to the Conservatives is, to be honest, should the question of private schools should exist, and the question that's really being asked here in this article that we're going to go over today, should we tax more private schools more to fund our public education? The answer is yes, but there's some interesting stats and numbers in here that I think are pretty good to know if you ever find yourselves in an argument with someone about this. So before we do jump into this article, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do support me that way. So on with this. This comes from The Guardian with the title of "The Pandemic Ought to be the Turning Point in the Debate About Private Schools." Keir Starmer's pledge earlier this week to end the very lucrative tax breaks given to private schools has predictably brought the usual critics. The chief executive of the Independent Schools Council, Julia Robertson, told The Times it was, quote, wrong to put politics before the interests of young people. Presumably, Robinson did not mean the interests of most young people, just the ones with families who can afford the tens of thousands of pounds for school fees. The term charitable status of private schools is an oxymoron of long standing. These institutions hoard advantage of the wealthy, and they are rewarded for their, quote, good work. Yet, the debate about the status is rarely progresses. We have been stuck listening to the same old myths for years, from the idea that private schools deserve tax breaks because they provide bursaries to poor children. In fact, the, quote, financial assistance is considerably more likely to go to the affluent middle-class families. To claim that the tax breaks let ordinary families buy into an elite education, the annual average fee for an independent school is around £15,000, by some estimates, half of the average UK salary even before tax. This is a testament to the hold that class privilege has in this country, that even such a modest attempt to keep private schools in check is repeatedly resisted. There is a chance, of course, the pandemic could be the turning point. More than a year of unprecedented disruption in schooling has highlighted the widening and the gap between young people in fee-paying schools and the state sector. Private school pupils got cherry-picked for higher A-level results, with independent schools in England giving around 70% of pupils top grades compared to 39% of comprehensive pupils. Lockdown saw rich families hire governesses, while the poorest struggled with lessons. With research by the UCLA found private schools were given at least 5 times more likely to get the near full-time teaching online than those in the state sector. In an era where kids were on free school meals have even lost months of learning because they can't even afford the internet, giving tax breaks to private school families feels particularly unjust. The private school system is often spoke about by its proponents as if it were harmless, but advantage does not exist in a vacuum. Where it's siphoning off the bright classmates and influential parents for the private sector, or even depriving the state resources through tax breaks. Every leg up that private school enjoys erodes the life chances of the less lucky pupils. This is, after all, the point of them. Starmer's move to try and frame the ending of private schools' annual 1.7 billion tax break is a way to try and fund the state sector as a very useful narrative. Tackling that unfair advantage will mean better education for all children. Ending the charitable status could be the beginning of a greater drive to actually try and tackle the two-tier education system. It will, of course, require more funding for struggling state schools, which have been long and been starved of resources, including the catch-up funds for working-class pupils who have fallen further behind during the lockdown. It should also be included the help for pupils with special educational needs and disabilities, known as SEND, who are facing an ongoing crisis in support from the underfunded local authorities. Parents of SEND children who can afford it are often far too forced into the private sector as their only hope, while lower income families with disabled kids are just simply left without. Reports this week that the Chancellor Rishi Sunak will hit the education budget hardest in the spending review is intending giving only minimal support for children who have struggled through the pandemic hardly bodes well. And again, if that turns out to be true, that Sunak really goes hard after education and slashes the education budget hard, this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity for Starmer to strike back. But I have my doubts. I have my doubts. Like I say, his conference speech was all fluff and no substance. He needed to be giving proper policies and what Labour would do differently in power. And he didn't do that. You can't talk about, education and how important it is, and then not follow through up with saying, this is what we're going to do. And that was all his speech. In fact, I'll say this now. The second Boris Johnson opens his mouth in Manchester, Starmer's speech will be forgotten. But anyway, we'll continue. Any attempt to try and make education fairer must look at the wider society and the growing gulf between wealthy and poorer families. Economic inequalities outside the classroom need to be addressed by reducing child poverty through higher wages and social security, and affordable housing to stop children growing up in temporary crowded homes. As long as some parents have enough income to pay eating fees, while others can't afford to even buy nutritious food, children in this country will never have anywhere close to a fair shot at getting ahead. And none of this will happen easily. Even the slightest attempts to try and tilt the balance towards state school pupils are often too greeted with hysteria from private schools. Those who are used to having a almost near monopoly on university places, top jobs, and power will not loosen their grip willingly. But the process will be slow and surely have its way of breaking through. The pandemic has brought home the unfairness of circumstance that some families have so much and others so little, though no quirk than just lack that of birth. In society where life is often rigged by class, education should be an escape route, not a way of entrenching this unfair advantage. If they are sensible measures we can take to start to treating pupils more fairly, they should be taken. You can call it the charitable thing to do. So I completely agree with what this article has said. I think it is time that we really do tackle the status of private schools, because if you think that 1.7 billion of tax breaks goes to private schools. Imagine being able to put that 1.7 billion towards the education budget instead. So it goes to state schools. That would be a fantastic opportunity. And I think, again, if you really want to look at education, and again, this is another thing you can take to the Tories. Oh, Mr. Tory person, you talk about levelling up. Well, how about education? Education is important. Look at all these things that we could do with all this extra money if we didn't give private schools so much of a tax break. You would get far more voters to your side with that, especially during the pandemic that has shown just how unfair this system is. So, as always, thank you for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you